Hello, and welcome to Exploring Axon, a podcast where we discuss Axon Framework, Axon Server, and their ecosystem. I am your host and a software developer at AxonIQ, Sara. In this episode, I spoke with some of our engineers who are preparing workshops on Axon Framework and Axon Server for our conference next week on September 22nd and 23rd in Amsterdam. We're also offering other workshops presented by some of our users and partners that we will share some of the findings from those workshops after the conference with all of you who are unable to join us in person. I spoke with my colleagues to find out what the attendees should expect from these workshops, what the format is going to be, and if there's anything they need to prepare prior to attending those workshops. I hope you enjoyed this episode, and I do hope to see all of you in person in Amsterdam next week. And let's have a listen. Hey, Stephen, thanks so much for being here. Let's talk workshop next week. So we're doing the conference, and there's an Axon Framework workshop. So tell me a little bit about it. Are you doing it yourself? Are you presenting with your other team members?
Yeah. Hey, Sarah. Yeah, we're indeed doing a workshop around Axon Framework stuff. A bit more the advanced topics, though,
Okay.
which comes a bit from the training already has a lot of information on this. Also, our academy has a lot of information on this, but not that doesn't always warrant time and place for the more specific things that some users might hit. So that's what we're going to do in the workshop. I have a couple of topics actually, and together
Can you give
with
me can you give me a
yeah.
hint on what those are going to be, or don't give me any
Um,
secrets? Don't give it
no,
away.
no,
But
no, no. Yeah, I want to keep it a little bit of a secret, but I
awesome.
think I can share one of them, though. I think I
Okay.
can share one of them, and that's mainly because I've already presented that once in the past, but now it will be in a workshop format. So what we did the last time around when we had the conference, I showcased the new features of 4.4, which contained something with exception handlers. So that's going to be the sneak peek, something around exception handlers, because I think more people can benefit from that.
Fantastic.
So
And
yeah,
if the rumors are right, we're having a new release coming up at
yes,
some
we are.
point. All
Yeah,
right.
yeah,
Okay.
very soon actually,
Very nice.
very soon.
So I'm assuming you're going to talk about that a little bit during the workshop as well. And maybe those are some of the topics that you're going to cover. Awesome.
Yeah, I can't say yes or no, but I think that's enough of an answer already. So
You're killing me, but that's
yeah,
good. Keep everybody on at the edge of their seats.
exactly.
So, Stephen, are you then? How long is the workshop going to be? What kind of format are you planning for it?
In all honesty, I believe it's 1.5 hours, but
Okay,
please don't pin me to that. I'm not
sure.
100% sure.
Hmm.
And well, we will be in a room, and we being me and the rest of the framework team. So that
Awesome,
includes Mitchell and Gerard and Yvonne.
nice.
So that's good for people,
Yeah,
and a bunch of topics. So each one of us has selected one of those topics or several of those topics to prepare and to set up. And then as an attendee, you come in. We'll show them to you what the options are, and you can choose what you want to do, and then we guide you.
yeah. So I'm thinking then you and the rest of the team will kind of be shadowing a little bit what people are doing and helping them through the process. Fabulous. Um, Now, as far as the what folks need to basically prepare for the workshop, maybe prior to coming into the workshop, do they need to have, let's say, an Axon framework based application running up and running already, or if they don't have anything of that sort, can they have access to an application prior to the workshop, or just maybe cologne one at the workshop? What do you recommend?
Yeah, good questions. We have prepared several GitHub repositories actually
Hmm.
containing
Hmm.
projects with several steps in them and a README in them to explain what to do.
Okay.
So, well, we share those links, and you
Hmm.
can, clone or check out whatever you like locally,
Nice.
one of those projects that you want to do. So, as a prerequisite, I'm expecting you have a working laptop
Hmm.
with an internet connection
We'll
that
have
you
Wi-Fi,
have,
so we'll connect
yeah,
you in. Right.
Wi-Fi should be good, right?
Yeah.
Some knowledge of Java and also
Hmm.
Axon would be good because it
Okay.
is advanced pointers, right? It's not really the basics. We can help you through that, but it might be a
Yeah.
bit nicer for you if you actually already played with the framework.
Yeah. And actually, I'm glad you mentioned the academy earlier, because I've been trying to brush up my knowledge of the framework a bit more this week and looking at the academy courses. So definitely recommend those. Is there any specific course in the within the academy that they need to know up to that point before entering this workshop? Um, what do you think? Do they, if they come in with basic knowledge of what the framework is about and some of those handlers and things like that, is that sufficient, or do you expect them to
Yeah,
know more?
that is sufficient. No, that's sufficient.
Okay.
The 2 free courses we have on Academy
Hmm.
should be good enough.
Awesome.
If you have done
Fabulous.
more, that's nice, but you
Yeah.
really don't have to.
Nice. Very good. Anything else that you recommend folks to sort of look into before the workshop, or um, to get them maybe excited about it? Any other items that you can think of?
That's a good one. Well, we will touch a little bit of base with our other projects. So having a
Hmm.
bit of an idea what we have might
Yeah.
be valuable.
Yeah.
That's really, and well, as long as you're enthusiastic about doing some workshops, then you're free to come, I guess.
Very good. And as long
Yeah,
as I think you'd like to play around and break things,
yeah,
which is what
exactly.
I
Yeah,
like
yeah.
to do.
Well, that's the good thing. We
Fabulous.
learn from that as well, right? If you break
Exactly.
something in our room and we are also like, oh my god, what have you done? Then that's a good thing,
Exactly.
and we can solve
It's
it
it's
together.
always a good feedback, not just for somebody who's breaking things and you're learning from it. It's a good feedback for us as well, as you mentioned, because then we can think about, oh, okay, I wonder why this broke and how can we improve it. So that's always a really nice thing to have as well.
Exactly. Yeah.
Very good. Awesome. Well, thank you so much, Stephen. I am really looking forward to this workshop next week. And I definitely be sure to at least pop in for a few minutes, if not the whole thing. There are so many workshops there next week and so many great topics and guests yeah, a little hard to pick at the moment, but I'm sure we'll, we'll get there and we can pick and
I
choose, which
uh,
is great.
I fully understand the predicament. I'm almost sad
Yeah,
that I need to be there in the workshop room because there are also other things right to do, and definitely the bit
exactly.
that you get a chance to talk with everybody.
Yeah,
That's so good. But this is also good. This is also important. So
yeah,
I'll be in the room.
absolutely.
Maybe I'll see you there, and
Yeah,
otherwise you can do them
absolutely.
afterwards.
Yeah, and the plan is, at least for me, is to gather as much information as possible because for folks who are not able to join us in person, it's, I think, extremely valuable information for them to have afterwards as well. So definitely planning on gathering some information and having that going. So wonderful. Thanks again, Stephen, and I'll see you next week.
See you next week, Sarah.
All right, have a good one. Hi, Bear. Thank you for being here. And let's talk about something exciting. Workshop next week at our conference. Um,
Yes, definitely.
Yeah. So I understand that you're going to be part of the Axon server training, and you are presenting one of the topics. I understand there will be 4 topics that will be presented, and you're presenting one of them with one of our
Mhm.
other colleagues. Can you tell me a little bit about what it is and why are we presenting it, and give me a sort of an idea about the format of it?
Okay. So what our little workshop will be about is about running Axon server in Kubernetes,
Great.
and that brings always along a lot of questions about how to deploy it. What can you do to change it? How is it different for Axon Server Standard Edition or Enterprise Edition? So we're just going to let people play a bit. And of course, we have some examples with worked out scripts for them. So if they want, they can just follow the script and see what
Hmm.
happens. But if they just want to experiment themselves, they're welcome to it. And we're there to help them.
Do they need to have any prior knowledge of Kubernetes or Axon Server for that matter, or can they just pick it up as we go?
Well, of course, we're expecting them to have been active with Axon Server at least once.
Hmm.
So we don't need to explain why you would want to run a cluster and how that
Right.
works. Things like basic Axon Server
Hmm.
configuration. But it's not really that much of a subject. We're really going to look for So what happens if I want to run this in Kubernetes? What do I have to look at? And um, of course, on the same footing, it will not be a Kubernetes 101.
Right.
We do expect you to know what Kubernetes
Yeah.
is and have some experience with doing it. But if you want, it's pretty well packaged into scripting. So it's not too difficult, I think.
Yeah. So at the same time, you don't have to be an expert in either Kubernetes or Axon Server for that matter. You just have to have the basic
Yeah.
knowledge to be there. Aside from that, so you mentioned scripts. Is there anything specific that they need to know? What kind of format are you using?
Well, we have a set of scripts for them that assume that you have something like Bash
Right.
running. And for the rest, they do need to have the gcloud CLI, but we have the instructions for how to install that if you don't have that ready. And you do need, of course, a tool called kubectl, which is to control
Right.
Kubernetes. But again, that is with instructions on how to set that up. So we'll help you with that. You don't need to have a local Kubernetes cluster. We're not going to do things like Minikube or a Kubernetes cluster in Docker desktop. We're going to use a large cluster in the Google Cloud, and we have a nice Wi-Fi connection available,
Great.
so that should work all.
We cross our fingers. You know how it is with demoing and workshops.
Yeah.
Something can go wrong, but hopefully nothing will go wrong, and we'll have a smooth ride.
Network always works,
Exactly.
right?
You would hope. Now,
Yes.
we were briefly talking right before recording about Terraform. Can you also tell me a little bit about that? What are we doing with Terraform? And do folks need to know about it ahead of time? What are we expecting?
Well, no, we're not going to go into the details of
Mhm.
Terraform and using Terraform. We use it
Right.
ourselves, and we have used it to set up the cluster for them, but we're not going to use Terraform to deploy Axon Server to
Mhm.
Kubernetes. So it will be relevant because we used it to prepare the workshop
Sure.
environment, but they should not need to know about
Very
it.
good. So why Kubernetes? I know you mentioned at the very beginning that we do get questions about it, but I'm
Mhm.
wondering, uh, do we usually get questions mostly on Kubernetes, or do we have the same kind of number of questions about VMs, maybe setting up Axon server in VMs, or is it sort of like a 50-50? What kind of got you interested in presenting this workshop in Kubernetes? Was it because solely because of the number of interests, or was it another reason that you thought maybe Kubernetes is a bit more beneficial to focus on this time around?
Well, I think the most important reason is that so many teams are using
Right.
Kubernetes. And of course, Kubernetes is a wonderful environment, especially if you have a microservices architecture. So for Axon Framework applications, it's
Mhm.
great. I mean, you really can do a lot of things with automatic scaling and health monitoring, and that works fine. The problem is, Axon Server, of course, is an event store as well as a messaging
Right.
solution. So it is definitely very stateful. And that means you need to use things called stateful sets in
Mhm.
Kubernetes. And there are a lot of gotchas that you have to be careful about.
And that's
Also, if you,
yeah,
yeah,
and I'm
sorry,
saying no,
if
but
you go
sorry to
to,
interrupt you. What I was going to say is I'm pretty sure you're going to point out some of those gotchas during this workshop as well as they come up. Yeah.
yes, and I've already written a blog article about it,
Yes.
of
Yes. Of
course.
course.
We used to say that Kubernetes was not the way you should run Axon Server simply because of those
Yeah.
gotchas. And especially if you want to do things like have a cluster with nodes in different regions to give you optimal availability, even if an entire region of your provider goes offline, then you simply cannot do. Sorry.
No worries.
Yeah,
I love that
my
ringtone, by the
phone.
way.
Sorry.
Sorry.
Yes. Anyway,
Yeah.
so what I was saying that if you want to have Axon Server available across multiple regions, then with Kubernetes, you definitely have a problem because all the cloud providers do give you very nice managed Kubernetes
Hmm.
environments, but none of them are multi region.
Gotcha.
The most you can get is multi availability zone, which tends to say I have several data centers in the same
Mm.
region, and I can have a cluster with nodes in different data centers. So if you want to have multi-region availability, you have to go to either very complex multi-Kubernetes cluster solutions or go for VMs, which is a lot
Right.
easier.
Makes sense.
And that is why we've always said that probably VMs is the better
Right.
choice. Unfortunately, some people then interpreted that as Axon server won't run in
Sure.
Kubernetes, which is, of
Not
course,
true.
not true because it runs very
Right.
well. It just has limits that you have to be
Yeah,
aware of.
and that makes sense. Very good. I'm very interested to find out more about it next week as I happen to be there, and hopefully I can sit in and learn something new. And yeah, I feel like I'm gonna workshop hop next week because we have so many great
Okay,
things happening, and some of
yeah,
our
great.
partners are also presenting workshops. So it's going to be very exciting. Thank you so much, Barrett, for the time, and looking forward to it.
Okay, well, it's going to be
Yeah.
fun. And of course, I don't want to spoil everything, but we are going to do things like setting up a cluster and then messing with it.
Oh, I can't wait.
So
Breaking things is
there
my
will be some
favorite thing to do.
surprises. Yes.
Awesome. Can't wait. Can't wait. Really looking forward to it. All right. Awesome. And good luck with the preparations and see you next week.
Okay, see you
All
next
right.
week.
Hi, Mikhail. How are you today?
I'm Sara. I'm good. How are you?
Very good. I'm doing great. I'm so happy to have you here to talk about one of the workshops you're presenting for the conference next week. So, you are part of the Axon Server workshop that we're doing next week at the conference, and you've picked up one of the topics. So, tell me a little bit about it. Now, this is something that we're making an announcement about at the conference next week. So, don't give me any trade secrets here. Just kind of give me generally what have you been working on, and what should we be excited about? What should we expect?
Uh, all right. So in our Axon Server workshop, we want to give people a possibility to learn how to integrate applications that are written in different languages, not
Hmm.
only Java, as we mainly associate Axon Framework and Axon Server with, but
Mhm.
different languages from PHP, JavaScript, C Sharp, to Python and different paradigms, including serverless computing. So during this
Wow.
workshop, we'd like to uh, present you the idea of how to develop applications using different languages and paradigms
Mhm.
and practice.
So any language that they're in, basically, and connecting it to the server. Yeah, perfect. So that's really wonderful because so far, as you mentioned, we've been associating Axon Framework and Axon Server with JVM languages, basically, and especially Java. And this actually gives a lot of possibilities to other folks who are not using Java to still be able to connect to the server and use the same benefits that Axon Server has to offer to Java-based applications, basically, which is really great. Now, what is the setup like? Do people have to have an application already running in their environment and then come in and connect it to the server, or would there be sort of like a, I don't know, a dummy application that they can quickly run in their system and connect it to the server? How's that work?
So for the workshop, we'll use a small, simple application.
Mhm.
Uh, for those who already participated to one of our trainings, I'm sure you are familiar with that application. We are going to start with that simple Axon framework-based application and try to refactor it, to rewrite it to different languages and different paradigms. Uh, there's no prior setup needed. We'll only ask you to get Docker ready on your own device, to prepare your favorite IDE and SDK for your favorite language. It doesn't have to be Java. It can be any language that you like.
Nice. And so you mentioned that this is going to be one of the applications that we use for some of our trainings. Can you tell me which one is it? Is it a hotel demo, or is it gift card, or is it the tester that we use for the server training?
It's gift card.
Gift card. Okay, great, great. And that's of course open source, and folks can actually clone that repo beforehand and come to the workshop. So aside from Docker and having SDK running, anything else that they might need, or everything else pretty much is set up for them and they can play
Not
around at
really.
the workshop?
Due to the multiple languages that we want to use in this workshop, we heavily rely on Docker to provide different compilers, SDKs, environment runtimes, not to burden people with the task of installing those, because as we all know, sometimes it can get tricky, and Docker really gets this job done. It streamlines work with multiple languages and environments at the same time.
Yeah, Docker definitely does make life easier. Um, and that's the really real benefit of it, which is really great. So awesome. I'm really looking forward to this workshop next week. I'm as I was telling Bert, I think I'm just gonna basically stick my head into every workshop for to get as much info as I can possibly get and to learn as many things as I can get. And of course, our partners, as I mentioned to Bert as well, have other workshops running. So there's a lot to be learned and to have fun with and play around. So that's really awesome. So just bring your laptop basically, and we'll connect to Wi-Fi and play around a little bit. That's really great.
You're welcome. I'm looking forward to meeting you there.
Yeah, same. I'll see you there. Thank you so much, Micha.
Thank you.
Sarah and Milan, two of my favorite guests. Thanks for being here. Let's Talk workshop for our conference next week. So, you two are part of the Axon Server workshop that we're presenting next week. There are, I think, 4 topics that are going to be presented during that workshop. And you two have picked one of them up, which you've been working very hard on this particular feature. So, tell me a little bit about it. And yeah, whoever wants to start, go for it.
Hi, Sara. So we are going to present basically a new feature that will be released next year, our Axon Server product, and it is about event transformation. So transforming the events into the event store. So the people that will attend our workshop basically could try a preview of this feature and see what does it mean exactly to transform the events and when it is a good idea to do that.
Ah, gotcha. And so, without telling me all the why, can you tell me why this particular topic for the workshop? What was the importance of it that you thought, hey, this would be a great addition to the workshop, and you'd like the folks to know a little bit about it?
Yeah, so this is something, as Sara said, completely new that we are working on. It is still not a ready feature, so our attendees are going to get a preview version of Axon Server with that feature baked in. One of the reasons is just to get a feeling whether this is something useful, although the main drive for us building this feature was a lot of requests from our customers, from people using Axon Server, because it's something really crucial. And also we want to gather feedback from people using it, telling us, okay, maybe you need this, maybe you want to change this in the final version, etc., etc. So this is really, I would say, a big shout out to people. Come and be the one to drive the final feature.
Yeah, exactly. So you did mention that you've had a lot of requests for this particular feature, and I know we had talked briefly about it before. And event transformation is something that a lot of times we think about, right? And we talk about, and it being in the event sourcing sort of platform, we always talk about events are immutable and shouldn't change it and so on. Can you maybe give me an example as to where would be a proper place to use event transformation?
A typical example is when you need to change not the content itself, not the semantic of an event or value inside an event, but when you just need to change the representation of the events itself. For example, you went in production without encrypting your sensitive data. You realize later that you need to encrypt this information. So the only thing you can do is to rewrite the same event in another form, maintaining the same semantic value of them, right? The same information inside them. It's important to avoid to use this tool as a way basically to change history. So
Gotcha.
the event is still immutable. It's still what it was at the beginning, but it just changed the form. It is written. So how we persist it is persisted form.
Right. So basically, use with caution and use as if you really, really absolutely need it. Makes sense. So tell me a little bit about the format of the workshop then. Do you guys have, let's say, an application prepared for the attendees that they can use that and play around with this idea of the event transformation? What should they have prepared before the workshop? Do they need to prepare anything prior?
Yeah, so they need goodwill. That's always helpful.
Yes, that's important.
Yeah. So basically, it will last for 2 hours.
Okay.
There are several exercises there. We have prepared those labs per modules inside a project. So basically, you can go through the repository, use the README file to read the exercise, then try to implement it by yourself. We are there to help you, of course. And if you're really stuck, you can always pick into the solution. We also prepare the solution for each and every lab. Apart from goodwill, there are also some technical requirements. Although it is not required, it would be really nice to have those requirements ready, because I mean then you will use the most from your and our time. So
Yeah.
Java would be really handy to be installed. Some IDE, whichever you like, would be handy to install. Maven, of course, although I believe, Sara, that you're going to provide a Maven wrapper, so that is not really a hard requirement.
Yeah.
Apart from that, we do not need Docker for anything.
Okay.
So, yeah, I think
right.
Java is the most important one.
Okay. Very good. Any other points that you'd like to mention about this workshop that might be useful for people to know prior to it happening?
Not really, but be there because it will be the best workshop ever.
Of course, it's going to be amazing. And so, another thing I was going to ask you, I understand that the whole Axon server workshop is happening in the same physical location in the same room. Would the people who are interested to know about the event transformation, would they be able to sort of peek into the other parts of the workshop as well, like installation of Axon server and Kubernetes, or some of the other topics that folks are talking about? Or would it be mostly focused on this particular topic, and that's going to take pretty much the whole time?
So theoretically, yes, if someone is really willing to try everything. Although,
Yeah.
yeah, I don't know. It really depends of the person. So if you're really prepared and you're really fast into doing exercises, grasping the concepts, then yeah. But I don't believe that this will happen in practice.
Yeah, gotcha. That's good
In
to
two
know as well.
hours, you have just the time for complete the 6 labs.
Yeah.
Of course, you can, if you want to move from one table to another, to change topic if you prefer, as we are
Sure.
all in the same room.
Yeah, makes sense. That makes sense. Excellent. Well, thank you so much both for being here and giving us a little sneak preview of what's happening next week. I'm really excited to seeing you there and possibly popping my head into the workshop a little bit and see what everybody's doing. Awesome. Good luck on the preparation, and see you both in about a week.
See you.
See you. Bye bye.
Bye. Hi, Mark. Thank you so much for joining me for this short little segment about workshop for the conference next week. So tell me a little bit about what this workshop is going to be about. And I know there are 4 different topics that are presented, and you're presenting in particular one of them. So, which topic are you presenting, and why did you pick that one?
Okay, I will be presenting the topic plugins. So
Okay.
plugins is a new feature in Axon Server, which has been available since Axon Server 4.5. Well, since we didn't have a conference since we released this one, I thought it would be a
Yeah,
good opportunity to make some more noise around it.
exactly. And so, what is the significance of it? What does it do basically? So, what are the plugins used for? Can you give me an example?
Plugins allow you to add custom codes to Axon Server that will be
Mm-hmm.
executed in message flows. So, for instance, when a command is submitted, you can have some custom code executed before the command is handed over to the command handler. And on the response, you can have some custom code executed before the response is returned to the caller.
So, it's basically a good way to customize Axon Server based on your requirements and
Yeah,
needs.
because normally Axon Server is completely unaware of the content of the messages.
Mm-hmm.
It only look at the type of the messages, but if you want to do something with content, then plugins is your way to do it.
So, can you maybe give me a real world example as to somebody who has used it or?
Sure, I can give an example. We have one of our customers who wants to do um, data protection on the server side. So instead
Mhm.
of having to add data protection module to every client application, they want to centralize this and have it done on the server side.
Right.
So they've created a plugin that would encrypt specific fields in the messages.
Yes.
And when you read the message, would decrypt it again.
Very cool. And can you tell me some of the other plugins that we have? So, data protection is one of them. Can you give me some examples of other plugins that we have available?
Plugins you can create is, for instance, a schema validation plugin. So whenever you store an event, you'll first validate whether it adheres to the schema. And if it doesn't, you will refuse it. You can do some things with upcasters. So instead of having an upcaster in your client application, you could do upcasting on server side.
So, then it's really good if you're, for instance, not using Axon Framework, if you're using other, say, languages, even, you can still use the server to its full extent and put it in a way that actually works for you, which is
Yeah,
nice.
that's also a nice option. Yeah.
Yeah, great. And now for the workshop itself, can you give me an idea of what the format is going to be? What have you planned on presenting at the workshop? Are there any um, sort of exercises for folks who are attending to do during the workshop? How is it set up?
Yeah, and the workshop is mostly working on your own
Hmm.
with some guidance from us.
Right.
And we'll have 4 different labs that you can do during this workshop,
Hmm.
starting from a very simple plugin to a more complex plugin, which is doing. We have one for upcasting, we have one for tracing, and
Okay.
the last one I can't remember off the top of my head.
No, no problem. That's okay. That's great. So then, for this one, as you said, people are basically working on their own based on the labs that you're providing them. Is it then going to be mostly on folks who are attending to write their own plugins or use the plugins that we currently have, or is it a mixture of both?
It will be on writing plugins.
Okay, great.
The people attending the workshop will be writing their own plugins.
Hmm.
We'll,
And do they
we'll
have
give
to
you
have
some
any?
exercises on what they have to do and some guidance on how to do it.
Gotcha. Do they have to have any prior experience? Do they have to have written any sort of plugins in the past in order
Um,
to participate, or can they come in just no knowledge of it and then they can learn
you don't need
afterwards?
specific knowledge about plugins.
Okay.
You need some basic Java knowledge to get
Hmm.
started, of course.
Right.
And having seen Axon Server in the past may help.
Okay. Great.
Not quite strictly required.
Okay. So it's a nice to have, but it's not a requirement. So that's good to know. Do they have to have anything set up before the workshop aside from Java, probably
You need
installed
to
on
have
their
the
computer?
Java version 11.
Hmm.
You need to have a Docker.
Okay.
You should be able to run Docker images.
Right.
You should be able to run Maven.
And that's about it?
And of course, your favorite IDE.
Sure. Yeah. Very good. All right. Sounds reasonable. Very good. Any other points that you'd like to mention for the workshop?
It will be great fun, and you'll be doing some interesting things. So
awesome. And yeah, it's going to be a great learning opportunity. And for those listeners who don't know you, you are the lead developer on Axon Server, and so it's really a great opportunity for everybody to interact with you and other engineers who are working on the product to really learn and understand it better. Hopefully by the end of the workshop. Excellent. Thank you so much, Mark. I'm looking forward to seeing you next week.
all right.
And good luck with all the preparation. Thanks. Bye. If you can join our conference, I can't wait to see you in person. Otherwise, we will have as much of the information that was conveyed to the audience during the conference for the rest of the folks who were unable to attend and join us in person out on our platform's website to discuss on the podcast as much of it as I possibly can fit in for you to be able to use and benefit from. Until next time, have a great day and happy coding!